I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Defending the Faith. The Vatican releases new guidelines on Marian apparitions. We have a report from Rome. Special delivery. The U.S. military pier in the Middle East handles its first humanitarian aid shipment to Gaza. Facing a blitz. A closer look at Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker and the reaction to his commencement address at a Catholic college. Plus, a different kind of kickoff. A major milestone in the National Eucharistic Congress. We'll explain. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, we are tracking a flurry of activity in the race for the White House. President Joe Biden holds events designed to appeal to black voters where polls show his support is slipping. And former President Donald Trump uses his day off from court to attend a graduation and raise some much-needed campaign cash. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Well, good evening, Tracy. President Joe Biden stayed close to home today, visiting a Smithsonian museum here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. But with a November election on the horizon, it seems every movement now has a political purpose.
My name's Joe Biden, and I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP.
President Joe Biden appears at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, just blocks from the White House.
Together, the NAACP and this museum are monuments to the power of black history. And black history is American history.
The president is counting on black voters to win re-election. But a recent AP NORC poll shows his support among black adults has fallen to 55%. The number is even worse among young black voters.
Well, I don't accept the premise that there's any erosion of black support. I believe that polls have proven itself to be untrue for the last 4 election cycles.
President Biden also plans to speak Sunday to graduates at Morehouse, a historically black college in Atlanta.
The goal will be to make sure that we use this as an opportunity to continue to elevate the amazing work that's been done at Morehouse over the last century and a half.
Former President Donald Trump, meanwhile, also appealing to voters, scheduling a campaign fundraiser tonight in Minnesota, a state often dominated by Democrats who are already pushing back.
We need to beat this guy at the ballot box. We need to return our democracy to a sense of normalcy where things matter, rule of law matters.
The former president's hush money trial in New York City won't pick up again until Monday, so Trump also had time today to attend his son Barron's high school graduation in Florida.
Also today, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris welcomed leaders of the Divine Nine to the Oval Office. They represent historically black sororities and fraternities, of which Harris is a member. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Sen Dick Durban says that Justice Samuel Alito should recuse himself from cases related to former President Trump's actions following the 2020 election. This after a New York Times report says that an upside-down American flag was displayed outside the home of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito back in 2021, just 3 days before President Biden's inauguration. The symbol was most commonly associated with then President Trump's Stop the Steal movement following the 2020 election. The court at the time was considering whether to take up cases related to the election. Alito says that his wife briefly flew the flag upside down in response to a neighbor's use of objectionable language and yard signs directed at the Alitos. White House Oversight Committee meeting devolved into a bizarre exchange on Thursday night. Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got into a verbal spar over eyelashes. It all started when Democrat Jasmine Crockett asked about the reason for the meeting. Republicans wanted to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt for refusing to hand over audio recordings of an interview with President Joe Biden.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down. Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl? I don't think
we are going to move and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
Our committee members told the media what they thought.
Well, I think there's no question that Marjorie Taylor Greene uses racist language all the time. I mean, let's be very clear. She's always actually, I think, coddling to white supremacists. She's coddling to the language that Donald Trump uses. And so there's no question that that's the case. I do think that she needs to apologize. And we asked her to apologize multiple times last night. She did not do so.
It certainly puts a light on Congress that it's chaotic and stupid and childish and undignified.
Well, today, House Speaker Mike Johnson stressed that decorum in the House is an important tradition to maintain. He also urged Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries to do the same. Tensions are at an all-time high between congressional Republicans and the Justice Department over the ongoing investigations targeting former President Donald Trump. Top GOP leaders accuse the Biden administration of using the DOJ for political purposes and want more control specifically over the special counsel's office. EWTN News Nightly correspondent Tara Mergener reports. Tara?
Tracy, Republicans are citing what they say are abuses by special counsel Jack Smith. He's investigating Trump over alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election, as well as the former president's handling of classified documents stored at his Mar-a-Lago home. Just this week, House Speaker Mike Johnson floated the possibility of defunding the special counsel's office.
How does Congress rein that in? How does Congress correct that error and ensure that a special counsel is not abusing their authority? You know, we have oversight, of course, but we also have the power of the purse. And so there's a lot of different ideas being discussed right now on what that would look like.
Republicans first broached the idea of defunding the special counsel's office last summer, but the effort has gained steam recently, and they say the appropriations process is the place to start.
Going after and defunding what we've seen is a complete weaponization of the federal government, from the FBI, from the spying on Trump's campaign that occurred way back in 2020. Those are things that we could defund in the House, and we haven't done that.
But can that happen?
I dare say that there's not enough people with the guts to do any of that. We've gone down that road before, and everybody just chickens out. So if it come to it, if we had enough people with guts, we could do something, because we are supposed to be the country's checkbook.
Attorney General Merrick Garland and Democrats defend the investigations, calling GOP threats dangerous.
The effort to threaten to defund our investigations and the way in which there are contributions to an atmosphere that puts our agents and our prosecutors at risk, these are wrong.
Failing to fund the special counsel is another tool in the toolbox being used by MAGA Republicans to try to defeat the concept of accountability for just one man, the king, Donald Trump.
House Republicans are investigating whether Donald Trump's classified documents investigation is tainted following revelations that the FBI may have tampered with the materials. Special counsel Jack Smith and his team admitted that the boxes of files recovered from the former president's Mar-a-Lago home were altered or manipulated. Republican Senator Josh Hawley, a former prosecutor, says he has seen enough.
Jack Smith, here's a guy who now says in court filings that they tampered with the documents. I mean, they can't account for all of the classified documents. They're not in the original order. They're not. That's a huge no-no as a prosecutor.
And defunding special counsels may prove difficult. However, the original congressional appropriation for a permanent and indefinite fund expired in 1999, but the Government Accountability Office has declared that appropriations remain available. President Biden's newest budget projects $4 million for that office. At the Capitol, Tara Mergener, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, the man convicted of attacking the husband of Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi will spend the next 30 years in prison. David Pape broke into the home of the then Speaker of the House in October of 2022. He admitted during the trial testimony that he had intended to hold Nancy Pelosi hostage and break her kneecaps if she lied to him. Pape also admitted to attacking Paul Pelosi with a hammer, which resulted in 2 head wounds, including a skull fracture. All this week in the nation's capital, 7 pro-life advocates were sentenced to years in prison for violating the FACE Act. This after their rescue attempt at a Washington, D.C. abortion business in 2022. Some of the pro-lifers are speaking out. Jonah Andrews Bell, a 76-year-old Catholic, was sentenced to 2 years, 3 months in prison. She says, in part, quote, "The rougher it gets for us, the more we can rejoice that we are succeeding." Lauren Handy received the harshest sentence, 4 years and 9 months. She says, quote, "I embrace courage over comfort and right over easy. I embrace tenderness, joy, and love for my preborn neighbors." Well, the Israeli military made a sad announcement today that its forces recovered and identified the bodies of 3 hostages.
According to the credible information that we have gathered, Shani Luke, Amit Buskila, and Yitzhak Lerenter were murdered by Hamas while escaping the Nova Music Festival on October 7th, and their bodies were taken into Gaza. They were celebrating life in the Nova Music Festival, and they were murdered by Hamas.
Meanwhile, trucks carrying much-needed aid rolled across a newly built U.S. pier in northern Gaza. Israeli restrictions on border crossings and heavy fighting have impeded the delivery of food and other supplies. It is the first in an operation that could bring 150 truckloads of aid per day into the beleaguered area. While the only Catholic church in the Gaza Strip has received a message of hope, solidarity, and support from a very special visitor. For the first time since the war broke out, Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, entered Gaza and reached the parish of the Holy Family. He traveled there to meet the, quote, suffering population and to see their conditions. Hundreds of Palestinians have taken refuge in the church since the war began. Well, a new document from the Vatican has updated the guidelines for Marian apparitions and other possible supernatural phenomena. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Tannhauser has more.
After 50 years, the Vatican has revisited their norms for Marian apparitions. A new document provides updated guidelines for discerning apparitions and other allegedly supernatural phenomena. The prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, presented this document at the news conference in the Holy See's press office. The last time the Vatican's doctrinal office issued norms for evaluating alleged supernatural events was shortly before the death of Pope St. Paul VI in 1978. In the old document, the initial evaluation of alleged apparitions, weeping statues, or supposed messages from God, Mary, or the saints was entrusted to the local bishop. With the new norms, the local bishops will still play a role, but they also say that the judgment of the bishop is to be submitted to Rome for approval. The new document encourages diocesan bishops to set up an investigative commission if evidence of a supernatural phenomenon seems sufficient. The dicastery then has to be involved. A second novelty introduced by the document relates to the judgment reached by the Church with 6 categories of discernment. The most favorable is the nihil obstat, which is Latin for no objections, no obstacles. It does not mean the phenomena are of supernatural origin. Instead, the local bishop can note the fruits of the apparition and also promote its spread. And this is really new. In the future, the supernatural nature of any event can only be confirmed as an exception, and only by the Pope himself. Cardinal Fernandez also stressed in the press conference that the faithful are never forced to believe in a certain phenomenon. The Church leaves the faithful free to devote their attention to this phenomenon or not. The Cardinal said that the revelation that has already happened is the Word of God. It contains everything we need for a Christian life. The norms do not mention any cases by name, but respond to the development of modern means of communication like social media, and that some cases of alleged apparitions have been detrimental to the faithful. The new norms are intended to provide more transparency and what Cardinal Fernandez calls greater prudence in the process. This is meant to avoid confusing the faithful. According to the document, there were quite a few alleged apparitions in the last century, creating confusion surrounding their authenticity. In fact, there have been several cases where a local bishop rapidly declared an event as supernatural, only for the Vatican to express a different decision later. In other cases, a bishop has said one thing and his successor the opposite about the same phenomenon. Pope Francis has also been careful in the past when asked about apparitions and called for more prudence in discerning their authenticity. Because of modern mass media, local events can quickly assume a global character. A decision made in one diocese has consequences elsewhere. Cardinal Fernandez further warned that in some cases, serious issues that harm the faithful may arise. In some particular cases, profit, power, fame, social recognition, or other personal interest have derived from alleged phenomena. In Rome, Andreas Tonhauser for EWTN News Nightly.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a kicker and a defense. Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker sparks major controversy for his speech at a Catholic graduation, and an update on the deadly storms that swamped a major city in Texas. Welcome back. Several prominent Catholics are voicing their support for Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker. This after his commencement address at Benedictine College in Kansas touched on some hot-button issues and drew some criticism. The practicing Catholic and Super Bowl winner received backlash for sharing his views on gender, abortion, assisted suicide, and IVF. Kristen Hawkins from pro-life group Students for America welcomed the remarks, saying, quote, "If you watch one video today, this should be it." The head of the diocese, Kansas City St. Joseph, also weighed in. Bishop James Johnston said in part, quote, "Harrison Butker's passion for his Catholic faith and his family are beautiful and well known. And like most people, he also has strong opinions on where we are as a church and as a nation." This comes amid calls for the Chiefs to fire Butker, and even the NFL denounced his comments. And for analysis, we turn to Doug Eldridge, who is a sports agent and founder of DLE Agency and Achilles Public Relations, and a Christian. Doug, great to be with you as always. A lot to talk about today, but first, are you surprised at all at the backlash that Harrison is getting for his speech, which really focused on the Catholic faith and traditional values, and it happened at a Catholic college?
You know, that's the perfect lead-in, Tracy. I mean, at some point over the last 5 years, traditional has been a catalyst for controversial, right? Vanilla became the rocky road of ice cream choices, as if it was controversial or on the peripheral. So I'm not surprised. I don't say that in jest or sarcastically, but I'm concerned about the position not only for Harrison, but also for the legion of fans and practicing Catholics and Christians and conservatives across the country who have been put in a judo stance, a defensive posture for what 10, 20, 30 years ago would have been considered benign comments. It's a unique time, a unique position in time that we're in right now.
Yeah, and Doug, talk to us about, some of the things that he said that sparked an uproar and why you think it's upsetting a number of people.
Well, let me view it through two lenses. So I run two companies. One is an integrated sports management firm, everything from NFL to NBA, golf, Olympic athletes. The other is a commercial PR firm. And I say that for two reasons. As an agent, I always look at the waiver wire for every team, because even if I don't have a client on that team, I need to know what those teams are thinking, the decisions they're making, and the position that they're in. Similarly, on the PR side, regardless of what my political posture is or isn't, I watch every channel on the cable news network, and I read a litany of newspapers and digital platforms, because information is key. And here's what's concerning. He was in a commencement speech format. He was the invited speaker. It was a friendly audience. This was not a campus protest situation. And he espoused values that were in line with that audience. The problem, and I say this with due respect to people with whom I have great respect for, the likes of Stephanie Rule on MSNBC and a variety of others, who have come out and said that he's on the wrong side of history. Well, that's a subjective take on a subjective opinion. When we back out to 50,000 feet objectively, that's half the country's views and values. But you can also quantify and qualify that, Tracy. He now has one of the best-selling jerseys in the NFL, a kicker, albeit a 3-time Super Bowl winning kicker. But it's not because of his on-field performance, but rather his off-field values and sense of purpose. And I'm a free speech absolutist. So anytime we see somebody who's called to the gallows, not for what they said or how they said it, but because they had the courage or the tenacity or temerity to even say it, I think that creates a dangerous paradigm. So I when you see his teammate Patrick Mahomes backpedal and say, well, I never talked to him unless before or after the season, you see the NFL, who has specially painted end zone hashtags back away from it. And even the Chiefs, who are now putting their thumb on the scale to weigh the benefit and burden of actually making a formal statement on this, it's concerning, because when you redact the fact pattern And you rewind just a couple of years ago when people were marching in the streets for a variety of social justice issues. We have to have the ability and the freedom and the opportunity to speak our values, whether the other party or person or the person on the other side of the block agrees with you or not. Now, here's where it translates in the sports business world.
Absolutely. Doug, I got to get going here. They're wrapping me. But, Doug, always great to have you on. So great to get your insights. We really appreciate it, my friend. God bless.
Thanks, Tracy.
Well, at least 4 people are dead after storms cause widespread damage in Houston. Nearly 1 million homes and businesses are without power following the heavy winds and rain that knocked down trees. In some parts of Houston, officials say that it could take weeks for power to be restored. It is believed to be the strongest storm to hit the city in Texas since 1983. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, pushback from parents. Analysis of the efforts in one Maryland county to fight transgender ideology in public schools. Plus, hundreds of thousands of people covering 6,500 miles leading to one destination, all in response to God's invitation for renewal. We'll explain. The government of Peru says that transsexualism and gender identity disorder are now considered mental health problems. This is part of a measure which approves an update of diseases whose treatments are provided for in public hospitals. Well, in Maryland, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals Court ruled this week that parents in Montgomery County do not have the right to opt out their children from being taught and read books on subjects such as transgenderism and LGBTQ ideology. Eric Baxter with Beckett Law, the firm representing the parents challenging the Montgomery County Board of Education, said in a statement that the ruling in part, quote, runs contrary to the First Amendment, Maryland law, the school board's own policies, and basic human decency. Joining us now is Eric Baxter, Vice President and Senior Counsel at Beckett. Eric, good to be with you. As mentioned, Beckett is representing the plaintiffs, the parents from many faiths, including Catholics, Muslims, and Orthodox, who have one thing in common, and that is protecting their young children from ideologies that go against their faith. Talk to us more about that and what this ruling says to them.
We're talking about teaching children as young as 3 and 4 years old about romantic feelings, sexuality, and gender identity, and simply asking the parents have the right to opt their children out of classes on those topics. The court unfortunately said that unless your child is actually being coerced to violate their religious beliefs, you have no right. That can't be the standard. Children are highly impressionable. They love their teachers. They're very susceptible to what their teachers tell them. Parents should have the right on these sensitive subjects to know when these topics are being taught, and if they want to pull their children out if the topics are not age appropriate for their children.
Yeah, Eric, I know in a number of states, including neighboring Virginia, parents have the right to opt their children out of certain parts or all of curriculum like family life education. So, why is this not happening in Montgomery County, Maryland? And is that the case throughout the state?
That right is protected around the country. Almost every state has explicit protection for parents, including Maryland, which says whenever you're teaching human sexuality and family life, you have to allow parental opt-outs. Montgomery County's own policies also have opt-outs anytime instruction would violate a student's religious beliefs. So we're simply asking to have the same rights that every other parent would have in this context. The fact that the school board is denying it only when it comes to these school books is straight up religious discrimination. And that's why we're asking the courts to step in and provide protection.
Yeah, and some opponents, though, they have stated this could be a potential slippery slope here if parents are allowed to opt out their children from this instruction, from these, hearing these books being read to them. What would you say to that?
I mean, opt-outs have been around for, ever since the school system. We have cases going back to the early 1800s where parents were given opt-outs. This is a core American right. There haven't been a landslide of issues with this. Parents who want their children to have these storybooks, they're perfectly welcome to keep their children in the class. It's a relatively small group of parents who are saying, let my kids go to the library during this hour, just like they would any other time there's instruction that violates their core values.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. I know that you are going to appeal this case, and we're going to continue to follow it. We appreciate your time. God bless.
Thank you.
On the Sunday is Pentecost. It also marks the kickoff of the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage, a 2-month journey that is part of the National Eucharistic Revival. President and CEO of EWTN News and host of EWTN News in Depth, Monse Alvarado, has more.
On your marks, get set, process. For 65 days, hundreds of pilgrims will walk thousands of miles across the United States to one final destination. And it all begins Sunday as part of the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage and ends in July in Indianapolis, the site of the National Eucharistic Congress.
This is a great witness to the faith that the Catholics in America have, that we would boldly decide to do something like this.
The 4 pilgrimage routes start at the 4 corners of the United States, forming the shape of a cross. The northern route, or the Marian route, starts at the headwaters of the Mississippi River in Minnesota and winds past the shrine of Our Lady of Champion in Wisconsin, the only approved Marian apparition site in the United States. Pilgrims will process through Chicago and worship at the Basilica of the Sacred Heart at the University of Notre Dame. The Eastern Route, or St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Route, starts in New Haven, Connecticut, and processes through the cities of New York, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C., before heading through western Pennsylvania and across Ohio. The Southern Route, or St. Juan Diego Route, begins at the Mexico-Texas border, goes through New Orleans and Atlanta, before pilgrims will spend time in worship at Mother Angelica's Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament in Huntsville, Alabama. The route continues through Nashville. And finally, the Western Route, or St. Junipero Serra Route. It starts in California. Pilgrims will cross the Golden Gate Bridge, take a boat along Lake Tahoe, cross the Great Rocky Mountains, and process across the Central Plains on their way to Indianapolis. Participants express their hopes for the pilgrimage.
I really hope that this pilgrimage can bring all of us together, despite all of the polarization that exists in this country and in the West overall.
It's super exciting, actually, being able to share how special, how important, how life-changing it's going to be.
The routes converge July 17th in Indianapolis, covering a total of more than 65,000 miles. Monse Alvarado, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night, and God bless.